Welcome to your first flipped video and video lesson for World History 1. Please go ahead and label this at the top of your Cornell Notes with the essential question you see here, which is, what were the defining characteristics of the early American civilizations? So we're going to start off by understanding a term that you're going to hear. Right now, that term that you see highlighted in red, Mesoamerica, please put that on the left-hand side of your notes. And on the right-hand side, please write down the definition, which is that this term literally means Middle America. And this area of the world is home to some of the earliest human settlements. Apologize for the bell. You see here that I'm looking in the area of North America. So North America extends all the way down to the tip of the country known as Panama into South America. And we're going to start our study in world history of understanding some of the civilizations that existed there in the Middle Ages. So just get yourself framed geographically. Here's where we are in the world. We are going to be studying the Middle Ages, which means we're not starting from the beginning of human existence, but it is important for us to understand this question you see here of how these early Mesoamerican civilizations began. Please put that question on the left-hand side and put migrations out of Africa on the right-hand side of your notes to help organize by questions and answers, in addition to vocabulary and definitions. So here we are, all human life. Ooh, that circle is a little off. Let me adjust that here. That circle here shows us that in all human life, here we are, began in this East Rift Valley of Africa, something that you've probably learned in the past. And human beings migrated over time as they were following their sources of food. Remembering, of course, that the world is round, you can see how humans then migrated over thousands and thousands of years up through what is now modern-day Russia, walked across what was then an ice bridge, and down here into Middle America. So that gets us framed geographically. Same map to show this information, just a little bit bigger. You do not need to copy this slide down. I want to make sure we're understanding, though, the background. This time period I'm showing you is not the time period we study in this course, but I want to make sure we address some of the early civilizations so we can see how those civilizations then blend into our focus of the Aztec and the Maya. The Aztecs and the Inca. So you can see there are many different early American civilizations that existed. The Olmecs, the Zapotecs, the Chavan, and the Maya are the ones we're going to spend just a few minutes discussing now. You do not need to copy that slide down. On the left-hand side of the notes, the Maya. So who were the Maya? Starting first, you notice where we are in this, geographically speaking, we're in modern-day Mexico in the Yucatan Peninsula, which is, if you see where the United States is, we've got our Gulf of Mexico, and that peninsula, the Yucatan Peninsula, of course, means land that's surrounded by water on three sides, is the area where we begin. The Maya were a thriving and accomplished civilization that were organized into independent city-states that were connected by trade. A city-state is a lot like D.C., a city that functions much like its own independent territory. In this instance, we use the term state a little bit confusing here, in a confusing way, but a state is simply, in this instance, a country. So we have almost these little independent countries that existed all around in the Yucatan Peninsula that were all Maya city-states. Each of those city-states, each kingdom there was ruled by a god king, so the king was believed to be a god and have special connections to the gods, who collected tribute. That's a good term to know. You see in red here that those will all form on the left, and the right-hand side will have our definition. That tribute is taxes that people would pay to the king that then would be used to support not only the king, but the kingdom itself. These were therefore then called theocracies. A theocracy is a good term to know as it applies to all of the American civilizations we'll study. A theocracy is a government that's run in the name of official religion. So the government and the religion are one and the same. They're interconnected. You can see that the Maya, there's just examples here, some of the Maya artwork of the Maya, about the Maya. The Maya had a writing system that was called glyphs. Please put glyphs on the left-hand side. Glyphs is a system where symbols are used to represent words, and you can see that these were recorded on something known as codex. This too appears when we discuss the Aztecs. Some of the academic achievements of the Maya. They created two calendars. You may have heard of this before. A 365-day farming calendar, which is incredible considering the accuracy of the calendar for the time, and a 260-day religious calendar. They did so using a long count or numerical system that's in base 20, so it's a little bit unusual. This calendar has a lot of myths about it. You may have heard the Maya predicted the end of the world, but in reality, the Maya had a very cyclical understanding of time, meaning that the end of one cycle, known as a Baktun, simply meant the beginning of the next. So when people say the Maya predicted the end of the world, they misunderstand how to read the Maya calendar and their conception of time. Something the Maya are also known for is that they included their concept of zero in their mathematics system. So we got some very early mathematicians here. Some of their architectural achievements, they created step pyramids. Now that sounds similar to the ancient Egyptians if you ever studied them. However, the ancient Egyptians used their pyramids as graves, whereas the Maya used them as sources of astronomical study. So they would use these to study the stars and the moon, and hence why they had then the achievements with the calendar. Showed you some pictures. My husband and I visited the Maya civilization. They also had a road system that they would use for taxation purposes on traders. And this is one of the systems, the areas where when traders would come together, they would tax them. Just going to show you a couple pictures, some of the Maya ruins. This is down in Tulum. And you can see some of the, again, these long-standing architectural features, their art. There's an example of the codex. A little bit of an addition here in that their step pyramids. For those of you interested, I've posted a video on our YouTube channel about the Mesoamerican ball game that they would play, which is the first organized team sport. I'm going to skip through these here for a second. You can see that this was they didn't invent it, the Maya didn't invent it, the Aztecs played it too, but it was the first organized team sport. So my football fans, soccer fans, basketball, volleyball, any team sport, you can trace the origins of that back here to Mesoamerica. High stakes game because the losers were sacrificed to the gods. You're welcome to check out the extension videos. You'll see this one and you'll see this one posted on our YouTube channel. So you can see there the high stakes game of those losers. The Maya civilization declined in that same, we'll return to our timeline momentarily, but the decline of the Maya is generally unknown. It's unclear if there was some sort of environmental disaster, if the Maya had ineffective farming practices that led to their decline, or if there was some sort of internal conflict between the city-states. But by the time period that we're going to focus on, the Middle Ages of the Americas, the Maya had already largely declined as a kingdom, as a group of civilization, or as a civilization, I should say. They do, however, the Maya people still exist to this day as a cultural group, so the cultural traditions of the Maya still exist. Let's return to this map here. This is important. You notice that the Maya here are on that Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The civilization that began to exist around the same time of the decline of the Maya would be the Aztecs, which you see pictured here in the basin of what's known as the Basin of Mexico, in the orange here on that map. So let's return to this timeline. You can see the Maya existed for an extremely long period, 200 years before the year zero, going all the way up to about 1400 1400 years after the year zero, 1400 CE. We're going to focus, however, now, the primary bulk of our study is going to be on the Inca and the Aztecs. So the origins, who are these Aztecs? I'm sorry, this is a little out of order. There we go. Nope, right here. On the left-hand side of your notes, please put the word Aztecs. And then next to that, origin. So Aztec Origins. So who are these Aztec people? Well, the Aztecs were a nomadic group. They had no set home. And they were wandering through that valley, that Basin Valley area of Mexico, and they were following what they believed to be instructions from their god, Huitzilopochtli. Strong name, Huitzilopochtli. And they were wandering through the valley of Mexico, finding a place for settlement. They had found an area. I'm going to go back to the map here so you can see the map. They found an area here in the Valley of Mexico, in the Basin area. But when they met a different group of people and they were making an alliance with them, they had a marriage between an Aztec leader and a local woman. And in following some of their cultural traditions, they thought that the most important way to show their gratitude was to sacrifice this woman to the gods, which understandably the local people did not take well to. So the Aztecs were forced to continue wandering. And when they wandered to an area known as Lake Texcoco, they saw a sign there. And they saw a vision of an eagle perched on a prickly pear cactus, eating a snake, which they saw as a sign of where to settle. On the left, you can see the representation of that. At the bottom, you can see that that's the modern-day Mexico flag, because that's the origins of the Aztec people. So let's get us acquainted with ourselves on a map. Again, here we are in Mexico. I'm going to use my arrow for a minute. you can see that here's what's modern-day Mexico City was where the Aztecs began. So the Aztecs is known as the people of Aztlan, and these Mexas, these were the ruling class people of the Aztec Empire. And the Aztecs, notice that I said before the Maya were independent city-states. The Aztecs actually created a full-on empire, which is a single kingdom ruling over all of this united territory. So we don't have these independent kingdoms with kings. We have one king ruling over this entire Aztec empire. You can see no need to recopy notes here. You could just see this is an interpretation of that, where the Aztecs built their capital at Lake Texcoco. They, of course, let's look back at the map. They, of course, built beyond that single lake area, but they began on that exact area where they saw that sign from their god. Now let's shift our focus down to the other major group of the time, who were the Inca. Right? Now the Inca, you notice, are in South America. They were not in Central America. They were in South America. Inca literally means the land of the four quarters. And the Inca were a united empire. They were a united, one ruler, one emperor ruling over this entire land area. Their empire was rooted in the capital city of Cuzco, not that Cuzco, but Cuzco here. And their location, their physical location of the Inca, followed the Andes mountain range. So they primarily went through modern-day Peru and Chile. But the Aztec Empire was truly defined, a little bit into Ecuador as well, and a little bit into Bolivia. But the primary countries would be Peru and Chile. The Andes mountain range follows that exact same geographic location. And the Inca were, in fact, the largest empire in the Western Hemisphere at the time of their existence. The origins of the Inca Empire, origins on the left-hand side, the emperor were all believed to be descendants from Inti, the sun god. So this emperor was known as the Sapa Inca, which means the unique Inca. And the Inca, too, were this extremely strong, complex, accomplished empire, just like the Aztecs and just like the Maya. All right, so that sets us up for success here. Those are going to be the baseline. Now we know where these Aztecs, Inca came from. We know about the descendants of the Maya, the early Central American civilization. If your Canvas is working, please go ahead and continue and answer the questions directly on Canvas. If you access this video in a different way, be it through YouTube or through TeacherTube, then please use a separate sheet of paper to answer just these single 2 analysis questions in full and complete sentences. All right, guys, see you in class.